You voted, we heard. Now we're gonna get into Lagos versus TAVIRA to see which one fits you best. I'm Josh with Expats Everywhere.
And I'm Kaylee, and let's dive into Lagos.
Let's go. It has been influenced throughout the years by many people groups, but one of the most notable ones that we see in the architecture is the Moors from North Africa.
Let's go ahead and zip to 2020 and see what life is like here. It doesn't really matter if you're close to the water or in the city center, prices for housing are pretty stable all over the city. Expect to pay around 900 to 1,300 euros a month for a T2. Obviously, amenities and if the apartment has been renovated will dictate the price, but this range should give you an idea. General utilities will be around 100 euros.
So Lagos offers a variety of housing options. As you can see here, we have a new construction that's meant to look old, and then we also have a single-story style of housing that actually is old. Now, you can live on a high-rise floor with a view, or you can live in a landed home with a gate.
There's a really strong expat community here, so that offers a variety of things to do. Of course, you have the beaches and water sports that go along with being by the beach. There's also hiking through the big rocks and beautiful views.
If you're not a beach person, then Lagos is probably not for you because there are other cities in the Algarve that don't focus on as much of the beaches and the outdoor activities. There are great parts of the city that aren't just beaches. However, the beaches and the water are massive draws to this city. Maybe you want to get out of the water area though, so let's take a look at the windy narrow streets and the old historic center.
The weather must be the biggest draw though, as the winters don't get too cold, yet the summers aren't blistering. It gets up into the 60s in the winter and only down into the 40s. The summers are brilliant as it normally hovers around the 70s during the day and only down to the 60s at night. So these averages are amazing.
For those of you moving here with kids, there are a couple of international schools available, such as Barlavento International Primary School and Valverde International School. At minimum, you'll be paying 6,000 euros a year, but upwards of 11,000 euros for the older kids.
This is a city that you're probably going to want to have a car because of the hills and how things are located. They do have buses, but they're not super well connected and the public transportation isn't great.
If being outdoors and outdoor activities is for you, whether it be in the water or out of the water, then Lagos might be your place. But if it's not, let's check out TAVIRA.
TAVIRA is actually a little bigger than Lagos by population, of course. There are about 24,000 people who actually live here. 20% are more foreign born. But when we walk around, you'll see that it doesn't actually give that vibe of a bigger city, maybe like Lagos does. Let's check out this vibe because it is very different.
I am standing next to the Gilao River, which spills into the Atlantic Ocean this way and divides the city of Tavira into two.
The beautiful bridges have a mix of a Roman and Moorish style. The city is filled with this history that you can see in the architecture. A lot of it is from the 18th century.
It's interesting because you have this amazing city that is built up, but around the city, it's still quite rural. We are seeing growth though as expats and tourists flock to this area.
While the city has kept its charm and the old architecture, you can still see the new and modern aspects of the city, so you can get a mix of some old and some new. Now keep in mind that tourism has risen so much in Tavira lately, so if you plan to live here, you will get a lot of tourists, especially during the summer months. What does that do for housing? A one-bedroom in the historic center will be around 600 euros, but if you move away from the center and the river, you can find stuff for a little cheaper, like around 500 euros. A three-bedroom in the center is around 750 euros, and outside drops just a bit to 650 euros. Now, if you want a newly renovated apartment with a terrace and a view in an optimal location, you can pay upwards of 1,500 euros for a T2. So there is a bit of a range. It's still not too pricey, but expect prices to continue to rise as Tavira becomes more popular with expats.
Tavira is very walkable, but if you want to explore areas outside of the city, a car would come in handy. When we were there, we didn't really notice buses driving around. However, there is a bus depot that will take you outside of the city to other towns and bigger cities. Guys, despite it being overcast today, Tavira actually gets quite hot. So the temperatures in the summer get into the 80s during the day, and at night it drops down into the 60s, so it's quite nice.
For those of you with kids, there is a small international school here. Expect to pay around 5,000 to 7,000 euros a year depending on the age of your child. So Tavira is full of churches, old charming architecture, history, a castle, a beautiful river with bridges, and much more. Now let's give you our opinion on what we think of Lagos and Tavira.
All right, so for any of you that are new, we like to finish these types of videos with our opinion and kind of breaking down what we like and what we don't like about the place. So, what do you think about Lagos?
I really like the vibe. It's very beachy, so it gives that, I don't know, beach type vibe with the ocean and the people that are there, the architecture that's around the water. So the vibe was a lot of fun, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, the vibe's fun. I think staying there for maybe a whole year, I don't know about that. Certainly it's good for a vacation.
Yeah, there were a lot of tourists, and I think that you'll get a lot of people coming in and out, so there is that. But also, I do want to note that it's nice around the water, but it gets quite hilly when you get off of the water. So if you're not really into walking up and down hills, then it might not be the place for you to actually live.
It seems like a really cool place for younger people, a great place for people that want to work digitally and be by the water and have those types of water activities to kind of escape to. I think that could be really interesting. So digital nomads, Lagos should probably be on your list.
Right. If you're really into water sports, being out maybe on a jet ski or windsurfing or on a boat, then this is a great place to be. If you're not super interested in that, I think there might be quieter beaches in other parts of the Algarve that would be better because you wouldn't catch as many tourists coming in for those types of activities.
Now, expense-wise, I think for sure you can find some cheap meals and cheaper things to do in Lagos. However, I do think with all the tourism there, you might end up being kind of pulled into some tourist prices.
I think so too. So it was nice. It had a great vibe, but it might not be for everyone's lifestyle.
Yeah, okay. So would you expat that?
Yes, I would actually expat Lagos. I did like the vibe, and I think even though it wasn't necessarily super family friendly, there were things for kids to do. So it wasn't great with the stroller at this point, but gets older or if you have older kids, then there are a lot of fun activities to do. Obviously, you have the beach as well, so you do have that. And
Yeah.
you?
I'm gonna give it a pass. However, I would say if you wanted to go there, I would go. I mean, I wouldn't, yeah,
Okay.
wouldn't be too reluctant, I guess.
Okay.
Okay, so let's look at Tavira.
I really liked Tavira. One of the biggest things is it was super family friendly. So there was definitely that. There were a lot of people with young kids and really all age kids, but like specifically young kids. So that means that the restaurants are looking forward to that. They're great with kids. People around are used to just seeing the kids running around. So it made it really comfortable, I guess, for families. Very family oriented. What do you think?
Well, I think it's still a place that is geared towards tourism in a way. There's still a lot of visitors. And when I say tourists, I'm not talking about just like international tourists that are coming in, but I think that there's a decent amount of tourism that's happening in Portugal, or Spanish people that come across the border and are hanging out, which it's not a bad thing. I do think, or Tavira gives me the impression that it's a little better for older residents, or maybe it attracts more older residents.
I think so. Yeah, I think that's right. I think that Lagos is a bit more for the younger crowd. It could be a mix of everyone, but it really brings in the younger crowd, whereas Tavira seems to bring in a bit more of the older, slower pace crowd.
Yeah, and I mean, there are old souls out there who might really, really love the charm of Tavira, so they'll want to go there.
And it had a completely different vibe than Lagos. Lagos was very beachy. And Tavira has the river with the pretty bridges and the different style of architecture. So I would say a lifestyle that's a lot just quieter and slower pace. So it is smaller by the area, even though there were a lot of people out. It's smaller, just quaint, I guess you could say. So it's for that lifestyle.
Here's the cool thing about Tavira, and it's kind of like a plus and a minus for Tavira in a way, and that is its geographical location. So it's pretty far away from the rest of Portugal in a sense where like Lagos is closer to get up and down the coast and visit some of the other bigger, more well-known places. But it's very close to Spain, so you can pop over the border and be in Andalusia. You also have some other cooler towns right around Tavira. So
you'd want a car for that. You don't need a car, I would say, to live in Tavira, but you would want a car to explore outside. But there's a lot to do around it and Spain, so that's a big perk.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so no beaches in Tavira really, but there is one nearby. Probably want a car for that.
Right, definitely.
Yeah, or bike maybe.
Yeah.
If you're into that.
That's true.
I'm more of a big city type of person, so like take my opinion with a grain of salt because I do like bigger cities, and I don't mean like massive cities, but I mean like Porto-sized cities. I do like that because there's so much diversity and things to do. And if your like little neighborhood, for example, in Porto gets a bit boring, or you want to do something different than what's in your neighborhood, like there's always another neighborhood to walk to. Whereas I get the sense that like in Tavira or in Lagos that it's almost like a neighborhood.
A neighborhood of one of the bigger cities, yeah. Like that's all it is.
Okay, so would you expat Tavira?
I would also expat Tavira. I think it would be a different
so
kind of life.
diverse.
I know. It would be a different kind of life, a different lifestyle. It would be very slow paced, but again, very kid friendly. The thing that could be tough is it might get a little boring after a while. So maybe a short term living there. What about you?
Yeah, I would definitely expat Tavira on the short term. I do really like kind of the slower pace, the family friendly vibe. I felt like there was enough to do. Certainly like if we're in work mode and we're just able to like, you know, be at home working and then go on a stroll for an hour and get Sia out, that's really cool. So yeah, I would expat Tavira.
All right.
If you guys are interested in checking more out about the Algarve, we have some interviews for you to check out, so click on this playlist right here. Now let's get moving.
Bye.
Bye.